In today's video, we'll be talking about Jon Jones smashing someone else's ear, how the prank went wrong, Jorge Masvidal versus Nate Diaz rematch updates, Dustin Poirier pointing out the costly mistake he and Justin Gaethje made fighting Charles Oliveira, and Mike Tyson's advice to McGregor being challenged. So stay tuned. Jackass star Steve-O recently revealed details of a stunt gone wrong that resulted in former UFC light heavyweight champion Jon Jones cutting off a section of his ear. Jon Jones and Steve-O became close pals in the summer of 2020, with Steve-O even incorporating the MMA star into one of his viral stunts. A lot of MMA fighters suffer from a condition known as cauliflower ear, which is a result of a direct blow to the outer ear that causes blood or other fluids to gather in the affected area. The television personality was hoping he could skip the years of training and just get the cauliflower ear. He called on Jones to get the job done in double quick time. The first time the former lightweight champion attempted to give Steve-O a cauliflower ear, it didn't quite end the way they planned. The ear of the Jackass star was then placed in between the weights, and Jones goes ahead to elbow them. Here's the footage.
I'll pick that up as soon as we get your ears secured underneath that belt.
I'm getting ready to hurt Steve-O.
So Steve, John, will you?
Steve-O came to town, started talking shit, and you see how that turned out for him. I ripped half his ear off.
We had the first attempt. My ear comes out of there and he says, "That's it, you've got it, that's cauliflower ear." And then a few days later, nothing happened. Steve-O called on Jones for a second time to help him achieve his desired cauliflower ear. They both decided to take things to another level this time around. Jones made use of his light heavyweight belt and a hammer to hit the ear of the famous Steve-O. However, they both ran out of luck. As the stunt goes wrong, the former light heavyweight champion had to literally chop off a part of the Jackass star's ear using a pair of scissors. It's the craziest thing you've ever seen. My ear is blasted to where a whole piece of my ear is just hanging down, and it's the most intense thing you've ever seen. We got a pair of scissors and just chopped off the whole piece of my ear. Jon did it. Jon chopped it, just one piece. In recent months, Nate Diaz has been busy in his Twitter feed. The social media altercation between the two started off by a tweet made by Nate Diaz, claiming that these fighters are in fear of him. The 37-year-old fighter has called out the names of different fighters in his frustration about getting a match up for his final UFC fight. Jorge Masvidal is one of the fighters that took notice of these actions by Diaz. Gamebred and Diaz had previously fought in 2019. The Masvidal-Diaz bout ended in the favor as Masvidal and earned him the inaugural BMF title. Now, Gamebred wants a part 2 with Nate Diaz. Masvidal, who had his own issues negotiating with the UFC in the past and claimed to want better pay for all fighters, called Diaz a diva. On MMA Hour, Masvidal also commented on the shit-talking of Diaz. He said, "All that shit-talking he's been doing lately. I wouldn't mind breaking his jaw and sending him off to wherever gambling casino he's going to be fighting at, or Indian Reserve he'll be headlining. I don't mind." Masvidal said it was wrong for Diaz to call him a coward, and if all he wanted was a rematch, he could have just said so, rather than saying that Gamebred was ready to quit. Chael Sonnen took to social media to share his thoughts on the potential rematch.
The biggest stars in this sport, Masvidal, McGregor, Diaz, all have one thing in common: they didn't win their last fight. I apologize, they all have two things in common: they did not win their last two fights. I apologize, they have three things in common: they did not win their last two fights, and they've never once reminded you.
Do you see the rematch coming near? If so, who would dominate the bout? Share your thoughts on the comments below. The former UFC fighter Mike Perry recently called out Sean Strickland via his social media handle. Mike Perry went on to call Sean a racist mother effer. Perry added that he was ready to fight the UFC middleweight in Florida. Here's the footage.
"Sean, you racist motherfucker. You coming to Florida to put hands on me?
Let's fucking go!
It's Sunday, bro.
We are together.
The Lord is resting. But this week, I'm down for you to try. And I'm going to put these hands on you. Let's go, Sean Strickland. Let's go. Is that even your name? I don't know. You might be Sean Shirt or one of these other UFC guys, you Nazi. Let's go."
Sean responded to this warning on Instagram. "LMAO, I got a lot of people to punch, but this man is on the top of the list. Guy cracks me up." Strickland will be meeting with Alex Pereira at UFC 276, taking place on the 2nd of July. Whoever wins this bout will be qualified for a title shot. Platinum has also hinted that he'll be returning to action on June 24th. However, nothing has been made official as of this time. Perry last competed back in February at BKFC Knucklemania 2, when he picked up a decision victory over Julian Lane. Now, before we head to the next chapter, do you consider yourself a real UFC fan? If so, then let's start the trivia UFC quiz of the day. Where was the first UFC event held outside of the USA? Is it A, Russia, B, Puerto Rico, or C, Japan? At different times in the UFC history, Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje have fought with Charles Oliveira, and they were both defeated by Oliveira. Dustin Poirier thinks Justin Gaethje should have trusted his ground game more against Charles Oliveira. For the bout against Justin Gaethje and Charles Oliveira, Gaethje was able to drop Oliveira in round 1 at the UFC 274, but he made the mistake of calling Oliveira back to his feet. Moments later, Gaethje was dropped and submitted by the Brazilian in the first round. Poirier can relate to Gaethje's loss. The Diamond suffered a similar fate when he was choked out by Oliveira in round 3 of their title fight at UFC 269. Like Gaethje, Poirier hurt Oliveira early but also decided not to follow him to the ground. Conor McGregor is recovering from a leg injury which he suffered from in July 2021. McGregor wants to return to a title fight. The Irish fighter has also called out the names of the present UFC welterweight champion Kamaru Usman. Tyson, who is no stranger to comebacks, offered up some advice for McGregor during a conversation with Henry Cejudo on the Fight Card podcast. After a defeat, you should do a couple of fights to get your feet wet. Conor, I think you should build your confidence up and go do what you do. Win excitingly. On the other hand, Bisping does not agree with Tyson. The UFC veteran made his opinion known in a recent YouTube video, where he said it was better for McGregor to lose to a champion than a lower-ranked fighter. Bisping said, "You'll go up against the champ Charles Oliveira, you get beat, oh well, so what? It's no big deal. Everybody's losing to him right now. Charles Oliveira is the man. However, if he loses to someone ranked down the pecking order, ranked 6 or 7, something like that, now it's a very different conversation that's taking place." These are not so contrasting views from two great fighters. Bisping's advice seems more cautious, while Tyson's views are more aggressive. However, McGregor knows his body and his capabilities, so what he thinks is all that matters. Notorious needs to plot his next moves wisely as he sets his sight on a third world title. Here we are at the end of the video. So the first UFC event held outside the US was the UFC 8, and it goes to Puerto Rico. UFC 8 David vs Goliath was a mixed martial arts pay-per-view event held by the Ultimate Fighting Championship on February 16, 1996. At Ruben Rodriguez Coliseum in Bayamon, Puerto Rico. It is the only UFC event held in Puerto Rico and was later released on home video. It featured an 8-man tournament and a UFC Superfight Championship fight between reigning UFC champion Ken Shamrock and Kimo Leopoldo. The event also featured one alternate fight, which was not shown on the live pay-per-view broadcast. The tournament had no weight classes or weight limits. A 10-minute time limit was imposed for all matches in the tournament except Super Fight and Final, which was 15 minutes. Hope you enjoyed today's video. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and also turn on your notifications. We'll be reading out our top comments in the near future, and make sure to watch our other videos to find out all the latest news in MMA.